That's the really unfortunate thing about trauma. It doesn't heal on its own. Am I making this up? Is this false memory syndrome? Things that happened years ago, they shouldn't have that massive impact on us. The whole way that our brain processes information, it changes and it goes into a very primitive fight, flight or freeze. The problem with trauma is it's invisible. Hello everybody, I'm Catriona Morten. I'm a sensory-motor psychotherapist, and today I want to talk about something that I get asked an awful lot, and that is, how do I know if I've got PTSD or trauma? But before I jump into that, if you're enjoying these videos, then please give us a like, subscribe to our channel, because it really helps us get our message out there to loads more people. The problem with trauma is it's invisible. We can't see inside ourselves. We can't see these kind of explosives going off inside us. It's internal. People feel it, and it's really hard to put into words what it is that they're experiencing. It also doesn't really make any logical sense if we just look through logical eyes. But when we understand the nature of trauma, how it forms, how it plays out in our body and our brain, then when we look at things through a trauma lens, it starts to make an awful lot more sense. Now, there's certain things that make trauma, there are key factors that make it quite particular. And when you know what these key factors is, then it's a lot easier to work out if you have trauma, PTSD or not. Loads of my clients, when they first come to see me or contact me, they know that they've had difficulties in the past, but they really have no clue that it's because of that they're actually suffering from trauma. And all the things that they're struggling with are responses to the trauma, responses to the triggers, ways that they've had to learn to adapt, or just the way that this impacts on us. And it's really important to understand what is the difference. And a lot of my clients also really question and doubt themselves. And sometimes this is reinforced by others, by family members, by friends, sometimes by the professionals. Was it really that bad? Was it really bad enough that it's had this kind of impact on me? For a lot of other clients whose memories just start coming through years later, they then question, am I making this up? Is this false memory syndrome? And I always have the same answer. Your brain and your body are not out to cause you difficulty or harm or make your life difficult. Things show up because either the ways that they were suppressed are no longer working, or this stuff just really needs to be processed so that we're not carrying it anymore. And even if before it was only affecting us on a low level, now it isn't. And now it's like, no, now it is time to do this, to process it, to help it move, so we're not carrying it around with us all the time and feel like it's a bomb that could go off at any moment. Normal memories fade. Even frightening, awful things that have happened to us, if we've had the capacity and the right support at the time, then it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get traumatized. We can recover from things, we can go through a lot of things and not get PTSD and not suffer trauma symptoms. But for others, either because it's just been absolutely too overwhelming, or it's gone on and on and on, and it's been repetitive and there's been no way out of it, or it's just our kind of DNA, it's our attachment style. Some of us have got more resilience than others. For some people, when something's happened, it's easier to get support from other people, to seek support. For other people, it's not. They'll lock it away. Also, the kind of response that we have at the time can be quite influential about whether or not we're going to suffer from trauma as a result. I see an awful lot of people with a freeze response, and that kind of tells me that a freeze response locks those traumas in the body, that we're frozen in time with it, and it's really difficult for it to process because it literally just freezes in place. And so a lot of my work is helping people either complete actions that needed to be complete, or to process and be able to work with that freeze response so it doesn't keep happening. So if we've had things that have happened to us and they're distant memories, that we know that they're there, but we sort of have to dig around to see them and to remember them. And sometimes our recollection kind of changes over time. Somebody will say, oh yeah, but you remember this bit? Oh my God, no, I'd forgotten that. That's when we know, and it doesn't spark our nervous system off. If someone comes to me and they're telling me about something that happened to them 15 years ago, and it's still incredibly difficult to talk about, or they get really, really upset, or they get triggered or dissociative, then you know that that's not been processed. Things that happened years ago, they shouldn't have that massive impact on us. And that's when we know. It shouldn't be so clear, it shouldn't shine so bright, it shouldn't affect our whole body and our brain. If it still does, then it's trauma. And that means that at the time of overwhelm, it's got lodged in our amygdala, as our smoke detector. And that's how we're designed. It's not a design fault, but we can't process that memory once it's stored in the amygdala. And it's called a smoke detector because when something pokes it, an element that registers with the trauma, woof, the whole thing goes off. The whole way that our brain processes information, it changes, and it goes into a very primitive fight, flight, or freeze. We go offline, we can't actually think, and we'll go straight into the initial response that we had. If that was freeze, you're going to freeze. If it was flight, you want to get out. If it's fight, you want to go for it. And we don't have an awful lot of control over those things. They can happen very, very fast, and we can be affected before we even know what's going on. The normal way that we process information is through our dreams, but we've got no access to it in the amygdala. Now, for some people, they will have recurring nightmares that have a very similar theme, either somebody coming for them, or they can't get away from things, or something specific playing out. That can be a bit of a clue that your brain is trying, but it can't. For processing, we have to have one foot in the present, the here and now. I know I'm awake, I know I'm safe, I know I'm not back there. And one foot in the past, bringing up bits of the memory that are important to your amygdala, to your processing and your brain. Not going fishing around for stuff, but just being aware of what's coming up for you. The general diagnostic criteria for PTSD tends to be, are you getting flashbacks? A lot of my clients don't get flashbacks. They don't get intrusive thoughts. Some people do. Some people, they are just aware that things trigger them, it affects them, and it makes things really difficult to do. They'll have this overwhelming sense of fear, or they know that they freeze, they dissociate, but they might not know why. And those are all real clear signs that trauma is at play here. So just because you don't have what's in the DSM and you're not diagnosed, if you think that what I've been describing, how things take you down, overwhelm you, and it just keeps happening. We can have things, injuries, and we'll be injured for a while, and then we get better, we heal. That's the really unfortunate thing about trauma. It doesn't heal on its own. Once it's up, it can stay suppressed. It can stay hidden and suppressed in our amygdala, and we might have minimal things, not have a clue why, and we can live a perfectly okay life like that. It's when they come up, when they resurface, or if something's happened to us and we just can't get over it. If we've had a car accident and a couple of years on, we still can't drive a car, or if we're in the passenger seat and can't bear it if a car's coming towards us, then that's not fading. And if that is how it is for you, then seek help from a trauma therapist. Either somebody that does body work, somatic experiencing work, sensory motor work, or somebody that does EMDR that can help you process. It's not going digging around for the nitty-gritty. You're already feeling the impact in your body. It's how the things that have happened to you have impacted your body. And that's what's showing up in an everyday. And that's what you bring to sessions. We can make the links from the past to help us understand why. But the main thing is that we process. And when we're processing, we don't need the story. You know, I've said this many times, either with bodywork and in particular with EMDR, I often have no clue as to what's happened to someone, but I just need to know certain things to know that it's processing, that it's changing as they see it. And it's not pleasant to do any of this work, but if you're living with this, if this stuff is impacting you all the time, then getting some help, going through it and coming out the other side is just hugely beneficial. Freeing yourself from the past. Because if the past is holding trauma and it's impacting your brain and your body, for a lot of people, it doesn't fade. It stays. And we might have, coping mechanisms and adaptive behaviors, but it's still having a massive impact on our nervous system. And with that amount of adrenaline and cortisol going through, it's not great for your body. It's not the kind of homeostasis that our body is supposed to have to be at its optimal level so that we can function. So if that makes any sense and you think that it might be trauma, then seek someone out who knows how to help you. So what I've found working with clients as a trauma therapist, and the brilliant thing about working with loads and loads of clients is it helps me get a much better understanding of what it's like to live with this, of what it is that they're experiencing. And for some people, they might know that they're dissociating. For others, they don't know they're dissociating. Do you feel like you're disappearing? Does it feel like you're kind of going through a tunnel and everybody else is operating and suddenly you're not there? Does your body suddenly go very, very still and it becomes very difficult to move? Is it hard to think? If we try and think about the stuff that happened to us, does it have that, I can't go there? Or if people make any reference to it, does it feel like what I've got to get out of here? I can't listen to this. If it feels like it's poking something really red hot that's going to set you off, that you can't go near, then it's burning too bright. That's trauma. And for some people, they just lose all the kind of ability to control their body. Can you squeeze the muscles in your arms? No, I can't. Can you move your feet? No, I can't. And often their breath will go really, really shallow and it can look like they're barely breathing. For some people, their eyes will fix on a point and can't move. For others, their eyes will dart around, sometimes in one direction and sometimes darting around in all kinds of other directions. Does it get really difficult to speak? Do you suddenly feel like you want to say something, but you actually can't? Either you can't get the words out or you can't formulate what you want to say in your head. Those are all signs of going offline. For some people, it's pins and needles all over their body. For some people, they get they'll feel a freezing freeze. They suddenly get very, very cold. For other people, they get a whoosh surge of heat and energy. For some people, they can't sit still. Suddenly, they get really, really fidgety and they want to get up. If hypervigilance is really kicked in, then it becomes really difficult to concentrate on what's happening at the moment. Your focus is out here. You're taking on in as much information as possible. For others, it's just an absolutely overwhelming sense of fear, gripping fear. If this comes on you, it's like, are you able to look over your shoulder and look around the room? Are you able to move your arms out to the side? No, I can't. I can't tell you why, but it just feels like that would be a really terrible idea or virtually impossible. Other people report things going really grainy and dark. Colours become less sharp and everything just starts to kind of blur. There's a big checklist, but these are the ones that I come across more commonly. You may have other ones that are brilliant. Stick them in the comments if you do, because they might just be things that other people can recognize. When anybody touches or goes near that trauma, or anything that is a kind of reference to it, a sound, an image, a smell, making reference to something or somewhere or some person, if that has a massive impact and you feel it like a bolt of energy through your body, then there's a trauma there. Your nervous system isn't designed to just go off like that. Something really frightening is happening. Yes, a nervous system is designed to go off because that's a very real threat. But if it's something being poked and everything is going off, and you can get a sense of need to get out of here, or a sudden surge of anger, which would come with a fight response, or an inability to move, speak, function, then that's your freeze response. If any of those things are happening on a regular basis, there's something, you might not know what it is, but there's something at the root of it. And often when we're processing trauma, some people, they worry about all this stuff coming up. Sometimes nothing comes up, but it's imprinted on the body and the trauma's playing out. The brain knows it's there, but maybe because you were really dissociated or very young, you have no memory of it, but you'll feel it. And so we can work with all of those things because we're working with what's happening in the here and now, in the present moment. The past is a reference to why this is happening, but if we haven't got that, then it doesn't matter. Something has overwhelmed you at some point and registered in your amygdala as a trauma, and it just keeps going off. So either way, it makes your life so much easier if you know that nothing's going to poke it and send you off, that you can find someone to help you process this stuff. It is doable, it is possible. I've done it with hundreds of people over the years and seen them live a completely different life, doing things that they never thought they'd be able to do because they processed their trauma. So I hope that's helpful, useful, and if you've enjoyed this video, then please give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.